Thank you for that, Susan, and good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Ken Wood, and I'm delighted to be here once again at Unity in White Rock. On a morning that's trying to look brilliant, the sun trying to break through some of our lovely coastal clouds. And thanks for inviting me back again after all this in my church. So let's start with a little humor. These are postings that were made on church bulletin boards, you know, the big signs that exist outside the Big Box Church Friends. And these are some that caught attention, and you'll find out why. So the first one is this. It says, the low self-esteem support group will meet Thursday. Please enter via the back door. And Thursday at 5 p.m. there will be a meeting of the Little Mothers Club. So all those wishing to become little mothers, please see the minister in his study. And this one, the sermon this morning is Jesus Walks on the Water. And the sermon tonight will be Searching for Jesus. And lastly, the associate minister unveiled the church's new tithing campaign slogan last Sunday, and here's the slogan. It says, I upped my pledge, up yours. Today my topic is on change, and this was a topic that was referred to me by a friend and colleague. And change is something that we have in common, of course, with each other, and everyone here this morning has change in their life to some degree. I like to call it kind of a three-sided dream, because we have choices when change stands up in front of us. In 1 Corinthians was said, behold, I will tell you a mystery. We shall not sleep, but we shall all be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye. So change is a constant in our life. If we're living, we're changing. And often we're not even aware of the flowing river of change in our life. So the first baby step is to become aware of change and try to absorb it at a spiritual level, and to allow it to become a life lesson and a form of learning. I recently found a new word which describes adapting to change while we keep moving forward. The word, and I'll spell it, is coddywomple. C-O-D-I-W-O-M-P-L-E. And it defines as to travel in a purposeful manner towards a vague destination. So we're all coddywomplers. I bet it's English. That's got to be in English. Anyway, we naturally get comfortable with things, including people, in our lives, as we're supposed to. And we like things to be predictable. The path of least resistance always beckons, and we believe that if we live predictably, we reduce risk and potential loss. Now, this thinking creates a comfortable rut. And I may have shared this with you before, but the finest definition of a comfortable rut that I've heard is a grave with the ends kicked out. So we want to avoid ruts when we can. Heraclitus reminded us that there is nothing permanent in our life except change. And since change is a constant, how we react to it equals our result. And results, even if they're perceived, create memory, which forms and fashions our day-to-day experience. When we experience from a spiritual level, we have the ability to bring nurture and meaning to change, as as we adapt and let it integrate into our spiritual path. And we know that any search, earnestly undertaken, can never be considered to be in vain. Change can convert into a very faithful companion because it creates possibility in our world. So introducing change and possibility to each other often invites them to dance together. And we all hear this dance music differently because change has enemies and can bring risk. But our soul's guidance provides us with the flexibility to rediscover our own poise and balance so we can better face survival and risk. We can't make them go away, but we can face them better. And our soul loves risk, that real essence place, because it's only through the door of risk that change can enter. A lovely example of this is the wolf spider, who never builds its web between two hard objects. The wolf spider will, because it would tear in the wind if that was the case, there wasn't flexibility. So the wolf spider will find two strong blades of grass, for example. And when the wind comes, the web will move, flowing and dancing, and then come back to a point of balance again. We have a tendency in our lives to look back quite a bit, and I think that happens more as we age. But I just say to visit the past, but visit it carefully. The ego can transform memory into a terrible mental swamp of problems and negative repetitions. And surprise, when we repeat mistakes, we get the same results. Maya Angelou said, if you don't like something, change it. And if you can't change it, at least change your attitude towards it. And memories can certainly create an attitude for us. If we dwell on them, memories might be looked at as a type of luggage that we kind of carry with us. And attitude becomes that scar tissue of change. So when you visit the past, try to do it through this new perspective that you have, because I know everyone in here is on a spiritual path. Your spiritual understanding will help you to go back into the past and know what to take with you and what to leave behind. So let's look at some things past that perhaps we've all had in common. Consider your first faltering steps. You may not remember them, but your parents do. Or perhaps when you left the safety of poolside and swam out into the center of the pool. Or the pride of your first driver's license, your first job, first love, or firstborn. All excellent and life-confirming changes. So what I'd like to ask you to do just very briefly, and this is this kind of metaphor that I like to use, it's called the passing chair. I'd like just for you to close your eyes for a very brief moment of meditation and imagine that you're sitting in a comfortable armchair and there's a conveyor belt in front of you. And that conveyor belt is moving. And on it are people that you've known in your life and experiences that you've had. And I'd like you just to sit for that moment and experience this, your past life moving by you. And somewhere on that conveyor belt, somewhere, there's someone or something you need to reach out to this morning and reconnect with. Maybe looking at with that gift of change in your mind. Good, good. So while we can't change certain circumstances, like the seasons or the wind, we can change ourselves by controlling how we react to things that are out of our control. And this, of course, requires flexibility, and our soul has flexibility and loves to dance with the mind in almost an exotic manner. change made through spiritual questing can only begin from within ourselves. We know that. Which means that the pace will always be correct because you're setting it. However, if we live our lives at an exponential speed and things move too swiftly, and if we don't stabilize our soul, it can get left behind. I recently tried to put this into the words of a poem. There are times I sit, closed eyes, and let the small window of my mind float free. It wanders into a past I keep trying to knit into my sheltered present. Only when I withhold my guidance and my soul create a secret sky where I can catch a cloud of freedom and go home again. Okay. So, welcome back. Like everyone, I've had my share of significant change. Losing my father. It took me years to appreciate what was not in my life. My father's early death, when I was 9 months old, combined with my mother's emotional withdrawal, created a box of darkness, which I call poverty. And when I think about those years, the memories can sneak out of my eyes and roll down my cheeks. When I realized we were poor, and it takes some time to grasp those things when you're a young boy, I became by necessity competitive. My young mind rationalized that if people had to look up to me, they might not notice how tall I really was. Becoming a father, significant change. Not many changes loom larger than bringing a child into this world. Particularly if you believe, as I do, that children choose their parents so as to be a part of their spiritual healing. And in this role, my daughter continues to be a remarkable teacher to me. Becoming a chaplain. After leaving the world of publishing, I took the longest left-hand turn in my life. The ministry work that I'm privileged to do now is to help other people honor their dead, practice simplicity, and be kind. And surely it's the path of the rest of my human journey. Losing my friend. Just a few weeks ago, my friend and mentor and personal hero, since I was a teenager, died. For over 60 years, Bob Gordon had been struck down by polio. He lived as a quadriplegic, unable to walk, and had very limited movement in his arms. In spite, this man raised 2 children alone, built a thriving business, designed a custom home right here near Crescent Beach, gardened, read, loved animals, and had a smile the width of the Fraser River. I can't remember being without him, and I feel lonely. But at the same time, I have this delightful image of him running down a beach somewhere now, getting ready to rejoin us again in some full form and add to the closet of his lives. So we know that change is a part of us, part of our living, and much of our spiritual hunger is born out of the conundrum of seeking what is already within the clay beneath our surface. But for those on a spiritual path, remaining precisely where we are is not a viable option. We search without for what is already within. And we need to break free, because only when we fully accept ourselves spiritually, as spiritual beings, can we absorb and use change in a strong and beneficial way. We know that perception becomes reality. So we must resist that well-conditioned habit we have of deciding whether change, something that's happened, is good or bad. Don't judge. Change is not preordained, nor coincidental. It just is. It just is. And of course, like any spiritual pilgrimage, no true journey ends with a destination. This means that life is a constant, unrestrained healing journey. And we never really reach home. But wherever friendly paths intersect, as they do this morning, the whole world can look like home for a time. So by openly accepting change, we will be guided to remember who we are in relationship to love itself. And when we change successfully, we develop something that William Faulkner described as this in so many of his stories. We develop honor, respect, wisdom, and something more, a belief in ourselves and that something is inseparable from our soul. So we can't embrace the truth of oneness or resist any lesson, because that will just create a little more chaos, and we'll have to try again later, which we're doing. We will learn to grow, through wisdom, or we will learn and grow through pain. How we adapt forms and fashions our approach to things, our methods, and of course our results. Richard Rohr said this: "We do not think ourselves into a new way of living, we live ourselves into a new way of thinking." And when we change before we actually have to, we can emerge from a tunnel of suffering and become the tip of a spear, our own spear. And sometimes God uses our suffering to make us more humble, more contrite, and more open to guidance that we have resisted previously. So we can emerge out the other side of things, out of a dark time with more inner faith and some sense of the soul that we really have, acquired and available. Sometimes the fire we go through when there are pain and lessons and life lessons can become a purifying agent for us, allowing miracles that God has made available to us, and they will seize our heart when we're open to them and make us new. Here at Unity, as at other heart-based centers, a path of evolutionary Christianity is becoming boldly knitted together by people in this room. So let's take an honest inventory of ourselves, and when we do that, we must arrive at the conclusion that we're building an esoteric knowledge of awareness, where heaven can be seen simply as expanded awareness in our lives, achievable and within reach, and not something you have to die to attain. And of course, an expanded awareness brings people to the lives they want and that they deserve, you deserve to have. Many of our perceived problems are seduced by a subconscious mind that has taught us to resist the natural world. And that's, of course, fueled by the ego's belief that we deserve to be punished. So how about today, if we accept that there's no one else to blame for who we are or where we are? No one else but us. And let's stop wasting time beating on walls, trying to turn them into doors. Step back, slow down, and then put your hand on the doorknob. So our task is to do that, is to take a deep breath and slow down, surrender those pains from the past, and let the Holy Instant, give the Holy Instant an opportunity to come into our present awareness. Fully embracing spiritual change will, of course, bring us an experience from different corners of the universe. So we're going to get to see the dimensions more clearly and get to understand its lessons before we go on to experience more of our journey. We're all aging, and age and change might slow us down a bit, but it can also take us into a deeper realm, no less spiritual than we had inhabited before, in fact, more spiritual. The entire richness of our life begins to burrow underground as we age. But it's no less magical. It is more visible to the heart. Our real vision of love and beauty are almost always unseen, but felt with the heart and with the soul. We know that love takes us away from judgment and blame. My favorite philosopher, Nader, once commented, "When we blame others, we give up our power to change. Peace of mind comes from not wanting to change others." So here's some questions as a takeaway for you here today. Ask yourself, when you're confronted with change, ask yourself, the first question, what if I do nothing? What if I do nothing? This was a lesson made true to me when I was starting my business career. And I was mentored by a very, very wise Welshman from our parent company in England. And I was running around, wearing Hugo Boss suits and trying to look and sound important. And I would go into his office and say, his name was Rex Cadwallader. I would say, "Rex, I've got the solution for whatever difficulty the challenge was in our company." And he'd always sit there and he would have this very stoic kind of little grin and he would say, "Before you start, what if we do nothing?" And that is a lovely first question. What if you don't react to the change? What if you do nothing? And that would take you through to, what does my quiet time tell me? However you perceive quiet time. It can certainly be meditation, prayer, it can be a walk with your little dog. How do you perceive quiet time? Take it into that place first. That's the place where the answers start to come back to you. And from that experience should come the answer to this third question. Does my spirit feel this change is true? Can I accept this, fourth, can I accept this change if your spirit has told you that it's necessary, maybe with the help from loved ones? So reach out earlier rather than later when you have challenges. And 5, am I ready to step forward in faith with this change? Because when we accept change on a spiritual level, our beauty begins to sparkle more, and it begins to steal inwardly. It almost always emerges after that as kindness and love. The two things which make the world go round. Only love can bring us to the point where we can hear the sound of our own smile. Only love can change us to the point where we feel embraced and full and complete. And at certain moments, I'm proud to say, I turn to prayer. In praise of my own divine part of this unknown kingdom. And I find peace behind closed eyes. And why do we close our eyes? When we pray, when we cry, when we kiss, or when we dream. Because the most beautiful things in life are not seen, but are felt by the heart. So this is surrendering, the exotic letting go, which gets us to special moments which wait to embrace us like a long-lost lover. Michael Jackson put this beautifully in a song, and lyrically in a song of his, that sort of sums up my talk today. The Man in the Mirror. I'm sure you remember. I'm not going to sing it. Yeah, who said that? I'm starting with the man in the mirror. I'm asking Him to change His ways. And no message could have been any clearer. If you want to make the world a better place, just look at yourself and make that change. Thank you, gentle people.
Yeah.
Peace.